Hi y'all. So this video is going to take a look at your ISTE alignment table exemplar that I've just posted on Blackboard. You will access this information by going to Module 8 and clicking on your assessments, and then scrolling down past the ISTE and 21st century alignment table information that was previously in the assignment, and down to where it says exemplar and video. This video will be posted as soon as it's published on YouTube. I'm going to click on the alignment table now, and we're going to take a look at this exemplar that I've provided for you to give you a better idea of what this table will look like as a finished product and exactly what I'm looking for when I'm grading. Now remember, because this is a critical task, this assignment must be posted onto task stream. If it's not on task stream, then I will not be able to grade the assignment. Also remember that I cannot change the rubric because it's a standard rubric that all professors use for ECIS 2629. I have no control over the rubric, which is why I provide you so many resources to help you understand exactly what's expected of you for the assignment. So taking a look at this assignment, essentially what you're doing here is you're creating a table where you're aligning several of the resources that we've talked about through the semester. You're going to be aligning the ISTE teacher standard, not only the teacher standard, my apologies, and the student standard that are provided for you in the table with resources and content from the web that align with the Common Core and Ohio standards. You're also going to be aligning those two resources with 21st century skill that we've talked about previously in the semester. And then basically what you're doing is you're going to be talking about your rationale for why those resources fit together and how they could be used in the classroom. So I'm going to go through the whole first standard for you to give you an idea of what you should be doing here and what I'll be looking for. And then we're going to go down to standard 5 so that you can see how that one is a little bit different. So the ISTE teacher and student standards are already aligned for you, so you don't have to do that work. You just have to make sure that you understand those standards in order to be able to align them with the resources. Your resources and content area should come from Common Core or Ohio standards, so you're really just giving me an idea of what content standard you're looking at or will be using this resource with in the classroom. You need 5 resources for each one of these standards, so you should be talking about ELA, math, science, and social studies, at least once in each of these standards. And then your last 2 resources, or at least 2 resources within each section of the table, should have some link to students with special needs or exceptionalities. Okay, so taking a look at this first example, the student in the exemplars from a previous semester, and the first resource that he found is called Techno Bookmaking, and he states here that Techno Bookmaking can be used with any of the content standards, ELA, math, science, and social studies, and that it involves creativity and collaboration, which is a 21st century skill. And then for his rationale, this is really what I'm looking for here. So I'm looking for you to talk about the specific resource that you have found and to give me specific information about why that resource aligns to the standard. So you can see in his first statement here, he says that using techno bookmaking software, students are given the opportunity to create original works as a means of personal or group expression. That wording is directly from the student standards and the ISTE student standards. And not only has he quoted that material, but he's also given me exactly which substandard it's from. So here he says that this wording is from Student Standard 1B. After he tells me and links those two together with specific quoted material, telling me exactly why this techno bookmaking website fits in with the ISTE standards, he's going to talk about his rationale for how this could be used in the classroom, and he's going to make sure to hit on that creativity and collaboration. So he says that students can work individually or in a group, which is collaboration, to create a variety of books about any topic from any content area. This tool does not just apply to language arts. Students are allowed to let their creativity flow as they organize their thoughts and ideas into a work of their own, while teachers promote and support their creativity their creative thinking and inventiveness by allowing them to use this online tool. So here you can see that his rationale is really linking these things together. So he's saying the technobook making aligns with the standards for teachers and for students. He gives specific wording about what student standard this is linking to. Then he talks about how students can work collaboratively and creatively in order to make books that hit all of the content and content standards for with this resource, and that the teacher is also going to be facilitating this creativity and learning, which is the teacher standard. So really here, very concisely, he's been able to show me and give the rationale for how all of this information fits together. Let's look at one more here. So in the second example, he talks about make-believe comics. He also says that this can be used in all of the content standards, and that it's critical thinking and creativity is the 21st century skill he's talking about here. So he says that using make-believe comics, students can practice practical thinking or critical thinking skills by applying existing knowledge to generate new ideas, products, or processes. And that directly links to Student Standard 1A. So again, you've seen that he is talking about exactly what skills they'll be using, quoting material from the standards, and letting me know exactly which substandard it applies to. He says that students apply their knowledge of a specific content area to the process of designing their own comic strips. So during this process, they connect the meaning of words with events in their comics. And then he gives an example. They can practice using vocabulary in complete sentences or create a comic centered around mathematical word problems. And not only is this fun, but it allows students to hone their critical thinking skills and work on their creativity. So you can see he talks about exactly how they would use it, how it connects to the teacher standard and the student standard, how it connects to the content standard, and how the students are you going to use critical thinking and creativity in this process. So you really want to make it very clear how you could use this in the classroom, and how all of these different resources that you have here are aligning together and working together in order for you to be able to use this resource. Okay, let's go down now to the last two because they're a little bit different. So one of the requirements is that you will use that two of your resources, your web resources that you're using, are specifically talked about for students with special needs or exceptionalities. So the first one that the student has done is Dragon Dictation. Again, he talks about Student Standard 1B. He gives quotations from that standard in order to show exactly how this information links to that standard. He says the keyword is expression, so he's going to talk a lot about how students are able to express themselves, which ties right into the communication piece of the 21st century skill he's working on with this resource. It says students with limited fine motor skills or other forms of physical impairment can express themselves creatively through writing. And then he talks about how this resource can be used to help students write through dictation. And that it empowers students with exceptionalities as well as opens a pathway of communication with others that some might not have experienced before. So you can see how not only does he tie in all those resources, but again, he's specifically talking about students with special needs. He does the same thing on his fifth resource here. So we're going to scroll down now because what he does is for each one of those student and teacher aligned standards that you've been provided with, he gives 5 resources and makes sure to very explicitly tie them in and very concisely tie them in. This isn't a 5-page paper on each one, it's about a paragraph. So you really need to make sure that you're being concise with your language. So the last one is a little bit different because in the last standard, Teacher Standard 5, there is no student alignment because it talks about engaging in professional growth and leadership. So these 5 resources need to be for teachers to use in order to either provide professional development and growth or leadership skills. but you're still tying in those 21st century skills of, as you'll see in the first one. So looking at creativity and collaboration, the student says he's going to use Edpuzzle, which is an interactive video tool that allows teachers to enhance their lessons by designing creative videos that correspond to their in-class lessons. And then he talks about not only does he talk about how it can be used for creativity and collaboration, but then again he cites quotes information from the teacher standard and gives exactly which teacher standard is substandard is being referred to in this section. So you can see teacher standard 5B as well as some quoted information. And he does that with all 5 of his resources. The only thing that you may notice is a little bit different is for the teacher standard 4th and 5th resource, do not necessarily need to have a tie to students with special needs because there are no student standards. So really that's exactly what I'm looking for, is very concise language on each of these things in this table. Let me scroll up so I can just give you another look at it. Taking the ISTE teacher standard, a website from online that links to a content standard. Both of those things, including the website, linking to one of the 21st century skills. And then a rationale that uses specific language from the standard, links to a substandard in the standard specifically, talks about how it's going to tie in that 21st century skill and how it's going to be used in the classroom in order to meet the needs of the ISTE standards for teachers and for students. So that's basically the crux of it. It's more difficult than it looks to be concise in that language, but if you use the exemplar and the rubric, as well as the other example that's available to you, you should be able to get this done and use this as a resource for your classroom. This is a really nice thing for you to have and to be able to use in your classroom when you are teaching later or even in student teaching in tech.